The Netflix binge release model is a huge problem. It was introduced in the 2010s and became a defining trait of the platform. But in recent months, with the plummet of Netflix stock and subscriber count, might be putting the entire platform in danger. It might be hard to believe now, but there was a time when Netflix was an incredible platform. A time when they funded high-quality original content, with critically acclaimed titles like Marco Polo, Narcos, Daredevil, and House of Cards. Until the Kevin Spacey situation. Full seasons of content would be released at once, and whenever a new season of your favorite show came out, you had your plans set for the coming weekend. After the success of their original content, Netflix doubled down on media production, in recent years giving us hit shows like Tiger King, Squid Game, and Stranger Things. But those times have passed, and recently Netflix has experienced content dilution, had huge price increases, and has developed an ever-growing distaste towards their own customers. To make matters worse, in the last 3 years alone, we've seen the release of multiple competing streaming services, including Disney Plus, Paramount Plus, HBO Max, and Peacock. All of which are comprised heavily of content that was previously on Netflix. If you're looking for a show or movie nowadays, chances are you'll find yourself searching through 4, 5, or even 6 platforms to find what you're looking for. Assuming you can even afford them all, you want to watch the Netflix-made Marvel shows like Daredevil, Jessica Jones, and Luke Cage? Well, that's too bad, because now they're on Disney Plus for another $8 a month. If you can't afford it, it's alright. Just share the cost with a friend or family member, is what I would say, but Netflix is blaming part of their revenue decline on password sharing, rather than the fact that they just raised their prices again. But of course, you'll still be able to share an account with somebody if you pay an additional fee. All of these factors culminated with Netflix's 2022 Q1 earnings call, announcing the platform lost subscribers for its first time in a decade and is expecting to lose millions more. While it would be easy to blame their financial difficulties on high rates of inflation, the unspecified virus, global conflict, and summer being right around the corner, I think the binge release model is the single biggest flaw of the platform. You see, when Netflix started producing its own content, they did the unthinkable, releasing entire seasons of TV shows at once. And despite being abnormal at the time, people loved it. If you found a new show you liked, you didn't have to wait a week for the next episode. You could watch the shows you wanted when you wanted. But Netflix realized the problem this created. If viewers got through shows in a few days rather than months, they'd need way more content to keep people subscribed. Take a show like Stranger Things with roughly 14 episodes per season. Typically, a whole season is released at once. And because it's popular, most people get through it in a few weeks, or days depending on whether they leave their room or not. But if Stranger Things changed to a weekly release schedule, each season would run for over 3 months. Not only would that boost word-of-mouth marketing and incentivize people to keep their subscriptions, but it would cover a quarter of the year's worth of content with a hit show. Because the old reliable shows like The Office and Sopranos are scattered on other platforms, having popular originals that stay relevant year-round is vital for Netflix. A perfect example of them making the right call is with Arcane, one of the only shows on the site not to be released all at once, instead releasing 3 episodes per week. Every single time there was an episode drop, it got trending on Twitter. And because people are at the same point in the story, they could talk about it. As a matter of fact, that's how I learned about the show. To mitigate the issue of not always having a hit show, Netflix just chose to produce more content. And more content doesn't mean it's good content. As a matter of fact, it's the exact opposite.
People thought the Hype House was just like white kids with money, when it wasn't that at all. It was just a bunch of kids with different stories.
The Netflix content philosophy is to throw shit at the wall and see what sticks. The bigger the bucket of shit, the more throws they've got. In simpler terms, imagine going to a fair and trying to knock down a stack of milk bottles with a baseball. The more money you spend, the more balls you get to throw, increasing your chance of knocking them all down and winning a prize. Every year, Netflix adds billions to their content budget, increasing their volume of shows, therefore increasing the chance of getting another hit. And they've shown their method works, but it's extremely expensive. It's also why 95% of the content they produce is garbage, like Tall Girl, Cuties, and Hype House. They'll fund anything with a pulse if they think it has a chance at making it big. And if you look at any of their terrible shows and movies under a different lens, you can understand why they might have been approved. For example, Hype House gave an inside look at the lives of the most famous TikTok stars, with a collective following in the tens of millions of children. They're the most modern form of celebrities, and each of those TikTok stars functioned as walking advertisements for the show. If I were a wrinkly old nutsack CEO of a major media distribution company, this would sound like the perfect way to target a younger demographic. Though in the case of Hype House, the show ended up failing when people realized how utterly boring, privileged, and literally stupid the entire cast was.
Okay, Mia, she's a Leo. She needs to be understood. Doesn't you have to realize her wrong for her to realize you're wrong?
What?
Or take Tall Girl, a movie pandering to the younger, more insecure generations with a message of positivity and self-love. A movie that could have worked had it focused less on the cartoonishly evil bullies at her school.
Well, how's the weather up there?
Nice sweatpants, Sasquatch.
And maybe if the lead actress was a little bit taller? I don't know about you guys, but 6'2" was a reasonable height at my high school. And it's almost like the director knew the lead actress wasn't tall enough, because looking at the cast, you'd think it was the same group of actors who played the Ewoks. Other than the intentionally taller love interest, not a single member of the cast is above 5'7". My point is, Netflix has to produce tons of garbage in order to get a hit. But it works. That's why on top of the trash heap sit massively successful shows like Squid Game, Stranger Things, and Tiger King. But because these shows only stay relevant for a few weeks, the platform is constantly depending on finding its next hit. Cranking out new shows almost every day costs a lot of money, and as subscriber numbers plummet for the foreseeable future, Netflix will be short on it. As a matter of fact, the day after their subscriber loss was announced, numerous projects, including ones that were already in production, were canceled. Not that they seem that promising anyway. But there's always a chance that one of those projects was their next big hit. Their bucket of shit to throw at the wall has shrunk. Now, you're probably thinking to yourself right now, Tony, your genius and intelligence has opened my eyes. What should Netflix do? For one, I think Netflix needs to fuck off about password sharing. If you pay $20 a month for access to stream on 4 devices, you should get that functionality, no ifs, ands, or buts. And they clearly didn't think through their premium plan, because what single household has 4 people watching Netflix at the same time separately? And the second and most important thing is changing to a weekly release schedule. Not only would it make the show more entertaining for viewers, but hits like Stranger Things would stay relevant and keep viewers subscribed longer. It would also mean Netflix would be able to reduce their spew of garbage and focus more on the shows people love. The honest truth is that the binge release model was a fun novelty whose charm has worn off. It's financially straining the company, results in terrible quality content, and it's turning TV and film with potentially massive social impact into footnotes of the industry. Instead of being cultural phenomena, each show is like lighting a fuel barrel on fire. Makes one hell of an explosion, but burns out shortly after. And I can only imagine how much more significant and entertaining a show like Squid Game would have been had we had weeks to ponder each episode. As a human with a fully intact frontal lobe, I don't expect an $100 billion company to magically fix itself overnight, though I'm hopeful their revenue decline signals a need for change. In the meantime, we're all stuck paying too much or not subscribing and missing out. But at least there's always other ways to get shows that you want.